Hey guys, I'm one of the beta testers for the Pulsar Labs mouse felt skates. And now I'm going to give you kind of my impressions so far and what I think about them. That's pretty much it. I'll be honest, I did not know they gave me two pairs. And then I remember seeing X2 on here, then I was like, oh, I got another pair. And well, I just, yeah, there it is. But I did not use that many pairs personally because I just didn't really like it or didn't want to use it anymore. But yeah, I think there's a lot of nuance though, so I wouldn't just be like, oh, they're bad, end of story. But feel free to if that's like, I guess, all you care about. But anyways, yeah. So some important questions I want to answer because people, or like some of the common points people pointed out in my first video and my shorts are, the first one is, what's the point? Aren't we just going in reverse by putting fabric on glass again? Like, what, why even use a glass pad? Like, basically like we're going in reverse. First of all, I kind of disagree with that premise because we're using it's felt. It's different from mouse pad material. It's not the same thing. And also, even then, I would argue if it was the exact same thing as a mouse pad, it's still not the same exact thing. The properties of a glass pad versus a fabric pad under it are just different. The way they feel on your wrist, the glide, the push down. There's so many factors that just swapping them around does a lot more than you think, essentially. Whether that's actually super significant or not in the grand scheme of things, that's up to you, and I'm not going to necessarily say like it is or it is not. But to say that they're basically the same thing is, I think, just kind of ignoring a lot of the nuances of that. So yeah, that's kind of my opinion when it comes to like, oh, why use fabric on glass? It's the same thing when you use glass skates on fabric. Anyone who's ever used glass skates on fabric can tell you it is not the same, like not even close to the same as using a glass pad. It's just not even close, honestly. It's a very different experience. Yeah. So with that out of the way, I guess I'll just talk about what I think about it and whatnot. So one person also asked, last thing is, would these like work on a table? Like no mouse pad at all. And I gotta say, I wouldn't recommend it. It doesn't feel right. But I would also say that in general, these skates don't feel right. They're not terrible, and I do think they have a place. I think there might be some people who might be interested in them, but they have a few problems that I personally don't like. But I do believe that there are some people who would like them. Just maybe not as much as Pulsar would probably hope for a market, you know what I mean? So yeah, let's talk about the skates. They're felt fabric, and that's, well, here's how they look like, first of all. As you can see, this one has been through some wear, so it looks quite different from this one right here. As you can see, they look quite different. But yeah, so the durability on these seems to be, in my opinion, okay. They don't seem to be amazing. They don't seem to be god awful though, but they don't seem to be great though. Just something to keep note of. Like you can see that these are well used ones down here versus like these are new ones, like I guess, and you can't tell that clearly, I suppose. It's just not, yeah. And in terms of feel, they feel the same during use. Anyways, so impressions. Okay, let's just talk about what I think about it. I don't like them because the main reason I don't like them, or the biggest reason, is because when you do slower movements on glass, you feel a lot of texture, and it's like scratchy. It just feels wrong. It's I don't know how to explain it. It just doesn't feel right. I don't think it'll pick up any sound. In fact, I should at least turn off. So it feels terrible. On fast movements, it feels fine. There's a lot of static, a lot of like friction, as you can see, dynamic friction that makes it good for attack FPS, right? But when you do slow, it feels just, I don't know how to explain it. It's making me, I hate it. Whenever I do slow movements, I hate the feeling. I don't like using it. So that's one big reason. Other than that though, let's see what I want to talk about. I think in general, I probably should have got rid of that metal skate. I didn't even realize it, but in the end, it doesn't matter actually. But in the end, I kind of agree that they don't really have a place in the market because my opinion about these felt fabric skates is they basically turn a glass pad into a fabric pad. They don't turn it into a fabric pad, but they make the experience way more like it. So for example, if you had a glass pad like the Phantom, that's way too fast, you could basically convert that to a regular mouse pad without having another mouse pad with just a pair of feet. And it's not the same feeling, but in terms of practicality and what you would use it for, like tech FPS having big stopping power, that's kind of what I mean, basically. Why I say they're not really particularly, there's no market for them, because like I said, I mean, I kind of agreed at that point. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're different, but for the most majority, for the average group of people, you'll just use a fabric pad. You know what I mean? But I do see there's a niche percent of group that would see this different. Okay, so in practicality wise. But one thing I want to note is that we're in a hobby, and small preferences are everything in a hobby. That's exactly why I even make comparisons between these two mice. They're super similar in practically so many ways, but I make comparisons between them because there's preference things and there's small little things like that. In the same way, practically these mice are basically the same in terms of like how I'd recommend, like if I'd use either or, they're very close to the same thing. But in terms of small preferences and whatnot, that's kind of what I'm saying for here. But practically, just use a fabric pad. But in nuance, and for some people, they might like this more. But for the most part, like I said, this does introduce something completely random out of topic. But this does introduce push down a little bit. So if you wanted that, that's also something. If you wanted that on your glass pad, but like I said, you could do that on a fabric pad. So whatever with that. One thing I don't hate, but like I said, it also does make it more like a fabric pad, is the static friction also is quite higher. So it's noticeably higher. It's not like insane, but it's definitely higher. So both friction, as you can see, the stopping power is kind of immaculate. As you can see how fast I'm spinning this, really, or and just stops on a dime for the most part. Then also the difference between the two dots are not insane. I don't know how to explain it really. It's about what you'd expect, essentially. It's about what you expect. I don't know what else to say with that. There's nothing that stands out so much so where I'm like, oh, these two are clearly different classes. You know what I mean? They're just kind of about what you'd expect. Anyways, for the feedback I gave Pulsar, I thought they're too niche, and I thought that if they wanted to really improve these and make these better, I don't think felt is the way to go. At the very least, a different material, because this just doesn't quite feel right to me. It's not god awful, and you know what? It's still usable in games like TAC FPS with a stopping power, and I still got some good use of it. But it's not my preference, mostly because the what's it called when you slow down? It's like all this it feels like a scraping. That, as well as it just the static friction is really high. I would like it a little bit less, but that's me, and I'm a glass pad user, so I mean, take that for what you will. Maybe if you're a typical fabric pad user, or you want both a glass pad and a fabric pad experience, then maybe you do want that static friction. But for me, it was hard to make micro adjustments because it really did hold push have static friction. You get the point. Anyways, so overall, these are currently a very niche product, and in my opinion, they would have to make big changes in order for these to really be relevant in the market, other than a few niche users. I'm not sure what they should do. I just think these are not particularly great. They're not super smooth. They don't. The biggest market they serve is people who want this very specific feeling of using fabric on a glass pad, and that's not very many people. So that's kind of what I'm saying, is it's very niche, and most people, not for them. So it's for that TAC FPS feel on a glass pad, but that you'd have to be a very specific person to want to have TAC FPS on a glass pad, and not use a fabric pad, or like, you know what I mean, like a very specific, and the only problems with, I think if they could get away with the problems with this terrible feeling of like scratchiness when you're slow, if they got rid of that and maybe made initial friction in my opinion a little bit less, then I honestly do think there's a market for that. It's still, in my opinion, not quite a huge market, because like I said, you're kind of basically using a glass pad practically in most practical terms. But at the very least, I could see a use case in there. But for this already very niche use case, it kind of fails as well in that. So I would not. So that's kind of my feedback, and I think what they should improve is I think this is overall, I don't know, maybe they can have a different type of felt that would really make this better, but I don't know, to me it seems like a fundamentally poor problem that is like the felt itself, maybe different material, I don't know. Yeah. Also, for the people that in the comments that were saying, I can just cut up felt and stick it on myself, I think that's stupid, because you could say the exact same thing about PTFE feet, but you're not doing that, are you? There's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't do that. The exact shape is hard to get down right. You don't have the tooling. You then have to get the adhesive. You'd have to make sure that all the felt is exactly, what's it called? QA'd in terms of being like very, very consistent. I don't know. I just think that's a dumb argument, personally, that you can't really make, because unless you're already doing the PTFE thing, like I said, then that just makes no sense. And also, they're, as far as I know, they're not going to be extremely terribly expensive compared to PTFE anyways. So yeah. Anyways, I think that's going to be my video on the Pulsar Labs felt skates. One thing I want to note is, although there was a bit of negativity and I didn't like these skates particularly, I want to encourage you guys to be positive in the fact that Pulsar Lab is trying things. Because if we punish behavior like this, we basically tell them, we want the same thing. We want the same thing. We only want good stuff. You know what I mean? Like, we only want PTFE. Like, we don't encourage new things. We don't encourage experimentation. So as much as I criticize them, I am very positive that Pulsar Lab is trying stuff like this. Because if we punish them for doing this, they'll think, why are we even doing this? Let's just release more slop that people want. The exact same thing. No, nothing new. You know what I mean? So Pulsar Lab, keep up what you're doing. I do appreciate it, though those are the problems I currently see with them. On the current state they're very niche and extremely niche product, and I just don't think most people would like them. But you're doing great in terms of trying to experiment, and the idea, in my opinion, is not that far off from, it's not like such a fundamentally bad problem. Some people will see it as like, what's the point? But in terms of feel, it's very different. And I think if you can at least make the feel good, then it will have at least practical use, and will definitely be a niche product still, but at the very least people might like it. And yeah, that's kind of it. All right, that's going to be my beta test of the Pulsar Lab felt skates, kind of my updated thoughts so far. If you guys have any questions, disagreements, agreements, feel free to put that in the comments below. If you like the content, you want to see more like this Pulsar Lab stuff, literally anything about mice content, feel free to like and sub, but that's totally up to you whether you do or not. And other than that, I think that's going to be my video. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Peace.